Good evening. Welcome to our Wednesday night product experience and training call. My name is Keith Hooper. I'm here in Central California, and I'm very honored to be joined this evening by some outstanding young ladies that you'll be hearing from in just a moment. You know, as we look at Immunotech, one of the things we want to make sure we put in here is the caveats that this call is intended as a training call for the exclusive use of Immunotech distributors, and the fact that the products from Immunotech research do not cure anything, but as Hippocrates said some 2,500 years ago, let food be thy medicine. So with that, we're going to share some information. And, you know, as we look at all of the things that have transpired over the past 23, soon to be 24 years here with Immunotech, there's some pretty interesting things that are coming out. You know, all those years ago, there was a patent issued on Immunocal as an immunotherapy for the treatment and prevention of cancers. We talked about last week that just recently the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded for immunotherapy as the killer of the killers, for the killer of cancer. Very, very exciting. We also see the fact that now immunotherapy is being used and thought of as the fountain of youth. The drug companies are getting ready to spend billions of dollars really developing these drugs because they figure by 2025 there will be $85 billion a year of immunotherapy anti-aging medications. That's what the market is. Now, we're not talking about cosmetics. We're talking about actual drugs to affect the aging process. So if we turn the clock back those 25 years and we look at some of that first original research, we go back and we look at the animal studies, where the animals that were given Immunocal, their life expectancy was extended literally by 30%. Now, what was interesting is when I went back today and looked at a couple of these things, that the lab animals that they did this with were, in human years, approximately 55 years of age when they started giving them the Immunocal. And they tracked them through what would have been 80 years of human life. And what they found is the ones that were on the Immunocal outlived the group that weren't by over 30%. Now, that's that's very, very powerful information, but what's most important is the fact that, quite honestly, I'm going to be real frank with you, what's most important is I started on Immunocal before I was 55. That's what's really important. But tonight, we've got some very, very special guests with us, and we're going to be talking about immunotherapy, the fountain of youth, and that immunotherapy is our incredible Immunocal. And I want to go to Lori Curry first here this evening.
Lori Carlavaris.
Carlavaris. I'm sorry, Carlavaris. I thought Gino was what made you look so young, but when I went back and looked at that research, it's Immunocal, young lady.
There you go.
So, Lori, how long have you been using Immunocal?
I have been using Immunocal since October of 1997, so 21 years.
21 years. And, the email that I sent out was the fact that I've got you and Betty Lyons and Wendy Whelans on the call here tonight as we're talking, because your driver's license doesn't really reflect your true age anymore, does it?
Well, I'd like to think not. So I was really flattered when you asked me to talk about the Fountain of Youth. And it's funny, Keith, because I'm 55. So, and you know what, people would obviously they'd guess me in my 50s, but the things that are different that I notice, I always get complimented on my skin. And if some of you see me on Facebook, you know that I travel a lot. I'm in the sun a lot. We have a condo down in Florida. We have a cottage where we're outside, so I'm in the sun a lot, which normally would not be flattering to a woman's skin. And I have always been, even if somebody touches my hand, it's something that you kind of take for granted. But then when you look, at maybe sometimes women of your own age, so I know that Immunocal is doing that from the inside out, because it just, I don't have. I don't have the deep wrinkles that people are starting to get there. So, I know that's from Immunocal. Drinking lots of water and Immunocal.
Well, Lori, one of the things that I was thinking about, because there's a lot of stuff that's coming onto the market right now, as being, an immunotherapy, a fountain of youth, making people younger. And it's been in the marketplace for 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, and they're making all these outlandish claims. And the reason that I invited you and Betty and Wendy on this evening is all of you have been using the product of Immunocal for many, many years. So you've been consuming this immunotherapy that is the fountain of youth. One of the things I remember from Dr. Bunos was every time you get a cold or a flu, you shorten your lifespan. So you've taken some time off the end because you got the cold or flu. And I know, all of these years being on this product, we often talk about it. We just don't get as sick anymore.
No.
It's very rare anybody ever comes down with a cold or flu or anything or certainly for any period of time. We agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I rarely get sick. And even when I had, my surgery, which had nothing to do with being sick, it was a spinal injury, I was out the next day on a very serious a serious operation, and the recovery was amazing. So, again, I know that's Immunocal. And when you say immunotherapy, Keith, when for the Canadians here, when you go to the States, every second, because I'm there a lot at our condo, every second, I might be exaggerating, but not too far off, commercials are drug commercials. And it's the big buzzword down in the United States right now, immunotherapy, immunotherapy, immunotherapy. And yet, even though they're saying immunotherapy, you're still seeing, just like the drugs, all those pages of side effects, which is like, mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, because when you look at the side effect that you have suffered here with Immunocal is you look younger, you feel younger, you're more active, you don't have the aches and pains, and your friends can't keep up with you anymore.
Let me share one thing. Now, this was funny. Now, the girl might have been just, flattering me a little bit, but I have 2 grandchildren, and they're almost 11, and the other one is 9. And it seemed like yesterday, but, they call me the cool grandma. I keep up with them. We play, we swim, we do everything not that your typical grandma would do. And we were out, actually, because I had them in Florida. And then somebody said, well, go ask your mom. And I'm like, and my granddaughter, she even said, well, that's a compliment, Nana. I thought that was nice. Yeah.
Absolutely, Lori. Well, if you could hang with us here, we've got I want the 3 of you ladies to share some stuff. So I want to go to Betty Lyons this evening. Betty is up there in Barrie, Ontario, and Betty, I believe you've been using Immunocal for about the same amount of time, right? 21 years, 20 years?
Same month, October '97 is when I started, and I haven't missed a day since.
And your health improved dramatically, from your COPD and all of that, and we talked about that, and we had you on as a guest talking about that. But when you think about Immunocal and this immunotherapy as a fountain of youth, you're perfect. You're a living example of it, right?
Oh, I'm actually in the old age bracket. I should be on the downhill slide. When I say downhill, I'm talking about starting to have physical ailments and problems and going to a doctor. And if I followed the traditional route, I'd be on a lot of different medications by now. I'd have GI problems. I'd have joint problems. I'd have cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. I have none of those at all. I don't even think about it. I go yearly for a physical because that's what you're supposed to do. I have blood work and everything done because that's what you're supposed to do, and everything is normal. I do not even think of aging at all because I do what I want. We can talk about looking good and looking younger, but it's what goes on inside. Are you still active? Do you feel well? Do you eat and sleep well? I live a very, very good life taking this product, not one side effect. I don't know why anyone would take a drug that is saying it's a fountain of youth, and then they start listing those side effects. I have no side effects. I do not take flu shots, the pneumonia shot, the shingles. I do nothing other than take Immunocal and try to eat right and try to exercise. I still have effort sometimes doing those. So, yeah, I'm reaping the rewards of 21 years of being on Immunocal daily.
Well, and when we spoke the other day, your grandchildren are reaping the rewards of you taking Immunocal for the past 21 years as well.
Pardon?
Because your grandchildren are reaping the rewards of the fact that you've been using this product for 21 years because they have a very
well, thank
active...
God, because my children are like me. They're late bloomers. My daughter, who's 39, just had her first child. So I am 74 with a 2-month-old grandbaby, and I can stay up at night and feed her. I can mind her. I can walk her the floors with her when she's colicky and all that. Like, thank God I'm on Immunocal, or I'd be the little old lady who's not able to do things with a newborn.
Well, because you're not a little old lady. I mean,
no,
I know
I'm not.
You're not. And, you know, honestly, when I was up there in Toronto in May, you're younger than you were 10 years ago.
Oh, definitely.
In my estimation. You're young.
Yep.
You look younger. You got more bounce. You got more bounce in your step than you had 20 years ago when you started on Immunocal. You've got a bigger smile, and you look like not only do you feel better, you just got you're just a dazzling young lady of 74. So would you agree with this statement?
I went. Yes, I went to. Last year I joined a club that was for retired professionals. And there was about 90 people there listening to a guest speaker. And that's when I noticed when someone was called up to the front, they got out of their chair and moved to the stage carefully and slowly. I had to go up to get a pin, and I had to wait for the guy to get the pin on me. Like, I was up there so fast, I don't move slow. And that's when I noticed a huge difference. I get out of a chair like I did when I was 40. If it's time to move, move. And without worrying about falling or joint pain or anything like that. Like, that's a huge blessing.
So you agree with the statement that Immunocal truly is the fountain of youth for you?
Absolutely. I'm living proof.
Absolutely. And once again, this is what's so important for everyone that's listening to this, is these are people that have been using the product. You just heard from two ladies that have been using it for 21 years. And so we're not talking about something that just came out. We're not talking about something somebody's just trying. We're not talking about, 5 weeks or 5 months. We're talking about people who have been using the product for 20 years and living this fountain of youth, experiencing this fountain of youth. And I want to go off to Manitoba to Wendy Whelans, who hasn't been quite using it for 21 years. Wendy.
14 years in 2 days.
Okay.
Like on November 16th. It'll be happening 14 years.
Who counts days? I want everybody to notice that all of these ladies know the day they started on the product. I want you to think about that. How many of you can recall something that was that significant in your life? So, Wendy, the Wendy Whelans we have today versus the Wendy Whelans of 14 years ago, which one's younger?
Well, the one now, but I've traded in a younger version of myself several times since I started on the product, yeah. I keep getting younger. And you said about the driver's licenses. Well, I keep my old driver's license pictures, and I just sort of cut out the picture part. And I have to keep that with me because just for my own sense to see that, because there's no filters, and, for other people to see, there's it is what it is in your driver's license photo, right? So, and I keep getting younger each time, so I'm so happy.
Well, a number of years ago, you and your daughter had an experience. I don't know if you recall that or not.
There's been so many, but most people think we're sisters, yeah.
Right, and I don't remember where you were at. I just remember the point that they thought you and your daughter were sisters. So
well, actually, that particular one was really good because my daughter had got called in for modeling. And then I was so excited because they asked me if I was a model as well, right? Yeah.
So as we're looking at this, so describe this Wendy Whelans 14 years ago. Describe her physical appearance.
Well, Keith, that's pretty bad, to say that.
I know.
Well, I do have to say that if somebody thinks, I had a number of health issues and my skin was awful. I was on different medications that had actually damaged my skin. And the important thing to know is that some people think that, it's in your genes, blah, blah, blah. I had crepey skin probably 20 years ago. Like crepey, you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you probably don't want to. But on all the skin of my body was like a crepiness. So, yeah, no, it's not. This is all from the product, yeah, for sure.
So when I'm talking and making the statement that for immunotherapy, Immunocal is the fountain of youth. That's in your experience. That's what you found.
Yes, and that's what I say every day when I drink it, right?
Exactly. You know, and I mean, so because 20 years ago, you had a lot of health concerns, but you weren't very healthy. You not only were you not very healthy, you had a lot of things. So making the statement that you're younger now than you were 14 years ago is a true statement.
Absolutely. So I want to tell you a little story. It's really cool. So just on Friday, we ran into somebody who was at our wedding, which it'll be 30 years next summer that we got married, and he was at our wedding, and he thought that Kevin had got a new younger wife, right? The best part about it is we'd seen him about, I can't really remember, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, and he thought that I was a new wife then, so he thought that Kevin has already traded up at least 2 times to younger wives, yeah.
This fountain of youth. So once again, when we make this statement, so when somebody says, why should I take Immunocal? It's about this fountain of youth. It's about that we have this immunotherapy that's a fountain of youth. It has all the other health benefits. But just for what you've received, for the quality of life that you have, is it valid to say it's been profound in your life?
Oh, absolutely profound. Like, the energy that I have, first of all, I've never had it before in my life, this kind of energy. And second of all, most people say like I have the energy of like a 20-year-old, but even beyond, because 20-year-olds have to sleep sometimes. I generally don't have to. But and taking something from the inside out, it's fine to put things on your face, but there's people that are my age that look about 40 years older than me. Some of them don't look so bad, but you can always tell because like they're doing some different, things on their face, but they'll still have the neck, the décolletage, their hands. Like I run a bed and breakfast, and so I shake a lot of hands, like I'm like a politician, and it's very common that people won't let go of my hand, like Lori was saying, and they'll like touch your skin. It's a little weird, but and they'll be like, I've never felt skin so soft in my life, right? And when you're taking something from the inside out, that means everything. That means whole health from the inside out. Anti-aging from the inside out doesn't mean just sort of dabbing some stuff on your face.
Well, absolutely. So once again, immunotherapy here, the fountain of youth, is what you've got with Immunocal. So, Lori, as you're hearing Betty and Wendy talking tonight, it's just profound, as all the other people. I'm going to talk to Barry here in just a minute. The same thing with him. So, by the way, guys, it works just as well on men for this fountain of youth as it does for women. But Lori, some additional thoughts from you?
Well, I was just going to say the person that you're about. I was going to say that, but you're bringing him on. But I mean, the person, the very, very first person. You asked our dates. My date was October 2nd, 1997, and a week later, I met the gentleman that you're about to introduce, and he is now 80 years old. So imagine him being 59, not much older than I am now. And you know what? He goes to our meetings. He's on your calls. His skin is absolutely beautiful. So I'm thinking even for the people that are my age, I mean, you start you worry about it more before 40, or before 55. But I just look at somebody like Betty is 74 and Barry, who is 80, and it just gives me such a reassurance that I don't have to worry. It's just really a blessing. And health-wise too, not just looks, but I mean looks are a big part because it's a multi-million-dollar business, and there's a reason for it because we want to look better, we want to look younger, but we also want to feel better and feel younger.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. White, as you're there and you're hearing Lori and Betty and Wendy, you started on this product because you went to get it for your wife, but as we all know who know you, it's been a fountain of youth as well for you.
Yeah, and I wasn't interested particularly in the business at all, that part of it. It was my wife that told me to go, and she trusted Lori to drive me down, and so here we are. Does my voice sound like I'm 80? Certainly my energy and vitality and so on is all much younger person. And I see people my age in the shopping areas and so on, in their walkers, in their wheelchairs, in their in their oxygen masks and all the rest. And here we are. We have this magnificent gift. Oh, and what a gift it is, because we're able to enjoy life at a different level than the average people our age. We're much younger. We're definitely, even though our age is, it keeps on going up, but our bodies don't seem to age at the same rate as everybody else.
Well, and earlier this week we were talking, and you were speaking regarding, I don't know if you want to share the story or not, but I'm going to kind of force you there. We were talking about your daughter, Bright, and her sister.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm chuckling to myself here. Fern's sister, who's definitely not on this call, is 9 years younger than Fern. She looks older than Fern does. Fern's 79, and so her sister's 70. And she looks in the mirror and believes herself to look younger than Fern. And we're all looking at her and saying, you're looking much older because you haven't been taking the Immunocal, which you've known about for 21 years, but you don't want to take it because vanity is getting in there. Anyway, she looks, maybe all it is that she's looking her age, and we're not.
Well, that's the point. I mean, when you walk into a room, you look 65 years old. If you told somebody you were 65, they wouldn't doubt it for a moment. Okay, they might not buy 45. Okay, but they're not even going to think it if you tell them you're 60 or 65. They're not even going to give it a second thought. Because of that. The same thing, with Lori walks in and tells somebody she's 48, they're not going to doubt it. Betty walks in and tells somebody she's 60, they're not going to doubt it for a moment. Wendy comes in and she tells them they're 19. I don't know about getting away with that one, but it's just interesting as we look at this immunotherapy. We look at it as a fountain of youth. We look at the fact that the studies on Immunocal with the lab rats, with the animals, that they increased their life expectancy by 30 years. And once again, when I went back and reviewed this information for tonight's call, those animals were not started on it to the equivalent of 55 years in human age, and they were tracked out through 80 or 85 is where they and the ones that were given Immunocal lived 30% longer. So it was interesting with that they didn't start on the product when they were 20 or 30. They started on it when they were 55, and it increased their life expectancy by 30%. Starting at age 55. So I think that's very, very profound. So Betty, let me ask you, are you going to run out of Immunocal?
Oh, heaven's sakes, no. Never.
Okay.
I have a stack here in case we have a strike or something. I will never run out.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that's one of the things that Sandra requires us to have. My wife, she requires that we have 12 boxes of platinum, because we're taking the platinum, to have 12 boxes of platinum on hand at all times, just in case, because I don't know if years ago there was a UPS strike, and that created a lot of hassle with a lot of things many, many years ago. She doesn't want to take a chance on ever being out. So Wendy, let me ask you, I want to give you $100 for a box of Immunocal, but it's your last box. Would you sell it?
Okay, Keith, I also have to keep 12 boxes on hand. I don't know why 12 is the magic number, but yeah. No, I can't. I mean, if I have 12 boxes on hand and people want to pay me, like, I sort of reach, hesitantly, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure. Yeah, because if I go down to 11, then, I'm sort of like, when's the next step coming? So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Lori, let me ask you, do you have a stash, too, of Immunocal like everybody else?
Sorry, I had you on mute so that there was no background noise. Am I off, Keith? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Of course I do. I always have a stash, and you know what? Sometimes you get your distributors, and they're like, "Hey, you got a box? You got a box?" Yeah, and it's like, okay, no. Yeah, you don't want to run out, and my whole family's on it. It's my dad. I won't get into details on this call, but I can another call. But I know he's living upstairs with us right now after cardiac arrest, and and I know that he's here because of that, so I never run out.
It's supposed to be a secret stash, Keith. You're not supposed to be telling people that we have this.
So Sandra's not unique in this fact of needing these extra boxes here. Okay. So, all right. So once again, tonight is our Wednesday night product experience and training call. And once again, the immunotherapy of Immunocal is truly the fountain of youth. When somebody wants to know why should I use Immunocal, they don't have to have a health concern. Okay. And once again, as a friend of mine, Charlie Tremendous Jones, used to say, he had a saying, that if you lie about that, you'll lie about almost anything. If you're not considered, if that study on increasing life expectancy by 30%, if that doesn't impress you and that doesn't resonate with you, like Charlie would say, well, if you lie about that, you'll lie about almost anything. So with that, once again, this is our Wednesday night product experience and training call. The products from Immunotech Research do not cure anything, but as Hippocrates said some 2,500 years ago, let food be thy medicine. So we're going